Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Shri Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadramaya Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Mishpar Pramasa Parishara Stotra Sota Shri Srimad Shila Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Char Beauty Founder Char Jaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Antarat Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Jai Gaur Pramanande Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, text number 2. Sau chakase dhavalo daro daro Sau chakase dhavalo daro daro Api urukramasya dhararso nasonima Api urukramasya dharaso nasonima Dadmayamana karakanja sampute Dadmayamana karakanja sampute Yatab jakande kalahamsa utsvanaha Yatab jakande kalahamsa utsvanaha Sau chakase davalo daro daro Api urukramasya dharaso nasonima Dadmayamana karakanja sampute Yatab jakande kalahamsa utsvanaha Sau chakase davalo daro daro Api urukramasya dharaso nasonima Dadmayamana karakanja sampute Yatab jakande kalahamsa utsvanaha
Sauchakashe Dhavalo Dharo Dharo Apiru Brahmasya Dharashona Shonima Atmayamana Karakanja Sampute Yatapchakande Kalahamsa Utsmanaha Sauchakashe Dhavalo Dharo Dharo Apyuru Kramasya Dharashona Shonima Apyuru Kramasya Dharashona Shonima Dharmayamana Karakanja Sampute Dharmayamana Karakanja Sampute Yatabjakhande Kalahamsa Utsavana Yatabjakhande Kalahamsa Utsvanaha.
Word for word translation. Sa, that, Uchakase, became brilliant. Dhavala udaraha, white and fat bowled. Daraha, concha. Api, although it is so. Urukramasya, of the great adventurer. Adara sona, by the transcendental quality of his lips. Sonima, reddened. Dadma yamanaha, being sounded. Karakanja sampute, being caught by the grip of the lotus hand. Yata, as it is. Abjakande, by the stems of lotus flowers. Kala hamsaha, ducking swan. Utsvanaha, loudly sounding. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The white and fat bowled conch shell, being gripped by the hand of Lord Sri Krishna and sounded by him, appeared to be reddened by the touch of his transcendental lips. It seemed that a white swan was playing in the stems of red lotus flowers. Purport. The redness of the white conch shell, due to the lip touch of the Lord, is a symbol of spiritual significance. The Lord is all spirit, and matter is ignorance of the spiritual existence. Factually, there is nothing like matter in spiritual enlightenment, and this spiritual enlightenment takes place at once by the contact of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. The Lord is present in every particle of all existence, and He can manifest His presence in anyone. By ardent love and devotional service to the Lord, or in other words, by spiritual contact with the Lord, everything becomes spiritually reddened like the conch shell in the grip of the Lord. And the Paramahamsa, or the supremely intelligent person, plays the part of the ducking swan in the water of spiritual bliss, eternally decorated by the lotus flower of the Lord's feet. Om Ajnana Timranjasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurulmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvaya Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhisnam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Vrisabhanu Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priya Vancha Kalpa Turubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. So, at the moment we're reading from the 11th chapter of first canto, which talks about Krishna's entrance into Dwarka. So in the previous chapter was titled Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. So Krishna, he stayed in Hastinapur, away from his home city Dwarka, so quite some time. And the reason he stayed in Hastinapur is to help out the Pandavas, who were his dear devotees. So Krishna left Dwarka, went to Hastinapur, and he was there along with the Pandavas constantly during the whole battle of Kurukshetra, and he stayed there for quite a long time. And even after the battle of Kurukshetra was finished, even after that, when he was about to leave Dwarka in his first attempt, Queen Kunti and Maharaj Yudhishthira, they approach him and they beg, Krishna, please stay with us a bit longer. They couldn't bear separation from the Lord. So then Krishna, being always subservient to his devotees, he decides to stay back. And it's mentioned not just for 1 extra day, 2 extra day, or 1 extra week, but for a few or a couple of extra months, Krishna stayed extra in Hastinapur. Then finally, after that, now Krishna, in the previous chapter we saw that Krishna finally started to depart for Dwarka. And as he is leaving Hastinapur, after such a long time, we see how much attachment all these devotees for Hastinapur they had for Krishna. We saw initially, how the Pandavas, they were receiving Krishna in different ways as he was leaving. Maharaj Yudhishthira gave his blessings, and Bhima and Arjuna, they embraced Krishna. Nakula and Sahadev, they touched Krishna's feet. And then we're seeing how the ladies of Hastinapur, they were showering flowers from the top and discussing, the different glories of Krishna. Like that, there was a great reception ceremony. And finally, towards the end of chapter, we heard that even though Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he's the master of the whole universe, he creates, maintains, and guides this whole universe. Still, Maharaj Yudhishthira, out of love and affection for Krishna, as his elder cousin, Maharaj Yudhishthira arranges, a whole military division to escort Krishna on the way to Dwarka. And now, finally, we're hearing Krishna is finally entering, or just about to enter Dwarka. And just before he is about to enter, he blows his transcendental conch. So if we remember in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which gives a nice overview of the scene that's taking place in Kurukshetra. So towards the middle of that chapter, we hear Krishna along with the Pandavas, they're blowing their conch. So before any battle, generally all the Kshatriyas, they blow their conch. And particularly it's mentioned that when the Pandavas and Krishna, they blew their conchs, it shattered the hearts of Dhritarashtra, or shattered the hearts of Duryodhana and all of his company and all of the other soldiers on the other side. And in the Sanskrit, it's mentioned that the conchs of the Pandavas and Krishna, they were Divya Shankha, or they were transcendental conchs. They weren't any ordinary conchs like the other party. So Prabhupada in his purport, he explains, Divya Shankha or transcendental conchs means that it's spiritual, it has a personality. So in the spiritual world, everything has a personality. Even so-called material matter, just like here, this microphone, microphone stand, this table, this, seat, the floor, marble, everything, it's just like matter, material energy. But in the spiritual world, all these things will have a personality. There'll be actual soul present here. So this microphone will be an actual personality, this table will be actual personality, the grass is a personality, the tree is a personality. And when we read Krishna book, we get to experience this. Like we see, remember one chapter, as Krishna and Balaram, they're going through the forest, the trees were, personalities, they're bowing down, with their fruits. They're trying to touch the lotus feet of Krishna. And recently I was hearing one story of one devotee, he was saying how he heard in one lecture that once there was this nice flower in Vrindavan, or not so nice, like this flower didn't give so much smell. Like you see nowadays, especially in Sydney, that a lot of the flowers you get, they have no smell, they have no scent. They just look, they look nice, but when you smell, there's no smell. So this flower is kind of like that, and that's why no one liked this flower. And this flower is always depressed that, I have no smell, I have no, I'm not very attractive or beautiful, no smell is coming from me, What is the purpose of my life? I can't engage in Krishna's service. So it's like that in depression, and he thinks, what's the use of my life? So Krishna and Radharani are walking, and this flower decides to jump in front of Krishna and then commit suicide. And Krishna will step on this flower, and this flower will, pass away. Because he's thinking, what's the use of his life? he can't serve Krishna. All these other flowers, tulsi mani, they're getting nicely offered to Krishna, but I have no nice smell, no attractive features. So like this way, it jumps at Krishna Radha walking, and he jumps in front of Krishna to commit suicide. And then Radharani, she picks up this flower. And Radharani, through her potency, she blesses this flower, so then the flower becomes, beautiful, attractive, and nicely smelling, and then Radharani offers that flower to Krishna. So this devotee is explaining to me that this is kind of like our story, like our life is, so useless, we're like so insignificant. But Radharani, she's so compassionate, being our Supreme Mother, that she always puts forward the conditioned souls towards Krishna. And she's so humble that she says to Krishna that, these devotees, or this particular devotee, he is a better servant of you than me. So you please accept this devotee. And she looks at the good qualities and offers them to Krishna. So that's why we see throughout the whole Shastra, this point is mentioned that, that we can't approach Krishna directly. We have to approach Krishna through the mercy of his devotees. So, from that story we can see, how everything in Vrindavan is a personality. The milk is a personality. Like in the Damodar Leela, we're hearing how, the milk that was overboiling in the pot, that was actually a personality. And like this we can see. So, not just in the spiritual world, but Prabhupada says that all of these temples that we have all around the world, where Shri Radha Krishna or Gaur Nitai or Jagannath Baladev Subramanian worship, all of these temples are non-different from Vaikuntha. All of these temples are non-different from Vrindavan. And there's even a Shastri quote for this, like in Bhagavatam, there's one sloka which mentions this, that any place where Radha and Krishna are worshipped in the Archa Vigraha form, in the deity form, that place is considered non-different from Vrindavan. And Bhagavatam mentions in that place, any spiritual activity you do in that temple or that place, the benefit of that becomes times by 1,000 times. So, the japa or, cleaning the temple, cooking that we do here in, Shri Radha Gopinath temple, you get 1,000 times more benefit than if you just do somewhere outside. Just like we always say, if you go to the Dham, Vrindavan, Mayapur, all the spiritual things you do get times by 1,000 times. So Prabhupada says, and Bhagavatam says, that not just the holy Dham like Vrindavan, Mayapur, but all these temples where the deity of the Lord is worshipped, according to proper rules and regulations, that place should be considered non-different from Vrindavan, from Vaikuntha, and anything you do gets times by 1,000 times. That's why, we always encourage devotees. The best place you can chant your rounds is coming to the temple and chanting here. You'll notice immediately a difference chanting here in the temple room in front of Tulsamani, in front of Radha Gopinath and Prabhupada, than chanting somewhere else outside. Like I just tried this myself before I joined the temple when I was in university. I was trying to chant in different places. First I was trying to chant in different places in my house. Sometimes I would chant in my balcony. It would be a bit more peaceful, away from the rest of the house. Sometimes I would chant in my room, or sometimes I'll go outside for a walk and chant. And then near my house there was like a golf course, and it's like a nice, peaceful park. And I'll go chant in the park under a tree, very nice and quiet. You don't hear so much cars or traffic, anything like that. It's just the wind blowing, and just like that, very nice, peaceful. And I found my best chanting was out there in the park, just sitting under a tree. I found I was able to chant most attentively. But even better than the park, I found, was when I came to the temple on the weekends and I chanted with the devotees in the temple room. That was the best chanting. So you can try it yourself. You can chant in different places. You always see that your most attentive, your best chanting quality will always be in the temple room. Because Prabhupada says, Bhagavatam says, these temples are non-different from Vrindavan, non-different from Vaikuntha. So understanding this, just like in Vaikuntha, every single thing is a personality. Every single thing is a devotee of Krishna. And it's also mentioned in the Shastras that Lord Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna. And there's no difference from Krishna and Balaram. The only difference is that Balaram is white and Krishna is black. So it's mentioned that in the Shastras that in Vrindavan, Lord Balaram, he expands himself as all the different paraphernalia that's engaged in Krishna's service. So in the same way, this is Vrindavan, this temple. So all these different paraphernalia that we have in the temple room, like this microphone stand, this Vyasasan, this book stand which is used to carry Bhagavatam, all the, the stands and the different paraphernalia that's used in the worship of Radha Gopinath. All of this is non-different from Balaram. All of this we should see as Balaram. That's how Prabhupada explains. So that's why, we should train ourselves to see through our vision. So we should say, this microphone stand is actually Balaram. Balaram has manifested himself as microphone to serve Krishna. This book stand is Balaram. This Vyasasana is Balaram. And all the different paraphernalia, like the conch shell, the stand for the arti plate, all the different utensils, everything is actually Balaram. So that's why we should be very careful in handling all these things. And if things like, like if our feet accidentally touches one of these objects, we should think, how we should ask forgiveness like that, because it's not different Balaram. So that's what Prabhupada is mentioning in today's purport. Prabhupada is saying that, I'll just read this part again. The redness of the white conch shell, due to the lip touch of the Lord, is a symbol of spiritual significance. The Lord is all spirit, and matter is ignorance of this spiritual existence. Factually, there is nothing like matter in spiritual enlightenment, and this spiritual enlightenment can take place at once by contact of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. The Lord is present in every particle of all existence, and He can manifest His presence in anyone. So in this verse, it's explaining how when Krishna, he blew his conch shell, the conch shell started becoming reddish in color. So Prabhupada says this symbolizes how when we come in touch with Krishna, we get spiritually enlightened. So one example Prabhupada gives of this is just like iron rod and fire. So the iron rod as compared to the jivas or living entities. If you put the iron rod in fire, then slowly over a period of time, that iron rod starts to act like fire. The iron rod becomes very hot, just like the fire, and the iron rod can burn things just like the fire. So in the same way, Prabhupada explains that the more we chant, more we hear and chant about Krishna, the more closer we come to Krishna, the more fire-like we'll become, the more qualities of Krishna will develop. Just like this conch shell, it's becoming, transcendently becoming red. Same way, all anathas will go and we'll start to experience spiritual bliss. And this conch shell of Krishna also that Krishna is blowing, it's actually a personality. We hear in Krishna book that there was it's in the pastime of Sandipuni Muni when Krishna is going to retrieve their son. And other thing I was going to say, not only is the paraphernalia of Krishna should be worshipped just as good as Krishna, like there's one verse, Lord Shiva says to Parvati, Aradesam Sarvesam Vishnu Aradharam Param Tasmat Parataram Devi Tadiyanam Samachara. So in this verse, Lord Shiva, he tells to Parvati that of all forms of worship, Aradharanam Sarvesam. Aradharanam means worship, and Sarvesam means of all. So all different types of worship, Vishnu Aradharam Param. The worship of Vishnu is Param, is the topmost. So of all the demigods, all the different gods, worship of Vishnu is the topmost. Then next, Lord Shiva says, even greater than worshipping Lord Vishnu himself or Krishna himself is the worship of things in connection with Krishna. So Tadiyanam Samachara, that refers to the paraphernalia of the Lord that's used in his service, and that also refers to the devotees of the Lord. So the topmost form of worship is worship of Vishnu, but Lord Shiva says even higher than worship of Vishnu is the worship of Krishna's devotees, is the worship of the paraphernalia of Krishna. And we can even extend this, like according to Shastras, is explained, that not only is the paraphernalia that's used in Krishna's service should be seen as non-different from Krishna, should be worshipped on the equal level of Krishna, just like, the shoes of Radha Gopinath, If someone happens to, has the good fortune of getting the shoes of Radha Gopinath, the old shoes, then those shoes of Radha Gopinath should be considered as non-different from Krishna, and one can worship those shoes as if they're Radha Gopinath. Because in the transcendental world, everything is absolute. And just like Krishna's flute, some devotees, they have the fortune of getting Krishna's Mahaflute. So then they keep that nice flute and they worship. You can offer arti and flowers and worship that flute as if it's non-different from Radha Gopinath. So just as the paraphernalia of Krishna is non-different from him and is equally worshipable, similarly is mentioned in the Shastras that the paraphernalia of the pure devotees of the Lord is also equally worshipable. That's why, when spiritual masters, the Maha spiritual masters is considered equally worshipable, just like, we have Prabhupada's slippers there in the nice case, glass case. So those are actual shoes that Prabhupada wore, more than 50 years ago. And just like, Krishna's shoes are equally worshipable as good as Krishna, similarly for the pure devotee, all of his paraphernalia of the pure devotee is equally worshipable. So we can equally worship Prabhupada by offering flowers to his shoes. Similarly, devotees sometimes they get, the Maha Chadar or Maha Shawl or Kurta or Gamcha or Dhoti that Prabhupada wore. And what devotees do, they take that Maha Shawl, they tear into little bits and pieces, into different pieces, and they give little Mahaprasad of Prabhupada to other devotees. And devotees, they worship that. Worship a small part of Prabhupada's Gamcha or a small part of Prabhupada's shawl, like that. Because just like Krishna's paraphernalia is equally worshipable, similarly the pure devotee paraphernalia, things that the pure devotee himself used, is equally worshipable. We even see this in the mundane sense, that in this material world, the so-called heroes of materialistic persons, just like sports stars, if someone happens to get, the cricket bat that Sachin Tendulkar personally used in the World Cup, then they worship that cricket bat, They take that cricket bat, put it into a nice glass case, and they put it in the, the main room of the house. Or someone gets the shoes that Barack Obama wore during the World Championship Olympics, then that's like sacred, that they keep it in a nice glass case and they worship their shoes. And from generation to generation, the family, they will nicely keep it and keep saying. So that's just to speak of some ordinary person, who's just here for some time, just doing material activities. So what to speak of the pure devotee of the Lord, whose fame is spread, throughout the whole three universes. That's why we sing during Guru Puja. The spiritual master's glories is sung throughout the whole three worlds, not just here in this planet among some disciples, but his glories are known throughout all the three worlds. So that's the first thing I was going to mention. And how do we come in contact with Krishna? So so far we discussed about the paraphernalia of Krishna and the paraphernalia of the devotees of the Lord, how they're equally worshipable, and because they're used in their service, they become spiritual. And also the jiva, it's mentioned that in the Shastras, that if a particular soul, if he is not engaged in devotional service, if he's not engaging his body in serving Krishna, if he's not engaging his mouth in chanting Krishna's glories, then that person is considered to be as good as a dead body. And it's mentioned that all of his, chanting of Vedic mantras, all of his austerities, so-called austerities he's doing, all of his so-called knowledge, all of these things are simply decorations on a dead body. So there might be a dead body, just lying on the ground. And if someone is getting, nice clothes and nice jacket and flower garlands, pearls and jewelry and starts decorating the body, you'll think that person is foolish, What's the point of decorating dead bodies? The body is dead, it's useless. So similarly, that's what Bhagavatam explains. If one is not a devotee of Krishna, one is not engaging in devotional service, then all of his so-called chanting of mantra, so-called chanting of different Vedic hymns, austerities, so-called knowledge, is all useless. It's just decoration on a dead body. In the second canto it's mentioned, that head which doesn't bow down in front of the Lord by coming to the temple, that head is just like a burden which causes one to drown more quickly in the ocean of true existence. Those eyes which don't see the beautiful deity form of the Lord, they're just as good as the eyes on the peacock feather. So in this way, Shastras are very heavy. If someone is not a devotee of Krishna, not engaging in devotional service, then they're considered just as good as dead. They're like a living dead, like zombies. So how do they become alive? They become alive not on their own endeavor. Shastra explains, Guru Krishna Prasaripai, Bhakti Lata Breach. Now these souls, they've been wandering through a universe for so many countless lifetimes, and only by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the mercy of Guru, do they get Krishna consciousness? Do they finally come in contact with Krishna? One nice example Prabhupada gives in first canto, Prabhupada says that the spiritual master injects, spiritual consciousness through the years of the disciple. And Prabhupada says that these jivas, they're like wood-like living entities. The verse says something about, wood and fire coming out of wood. So Prabhupada says that all of these jivas who are devoid of Krishna consciousness, they're just like wood. Like wood is just inert matter, There's no existence, it has no life, it's just matter. So similarly, Prabhupada saying, all these souls out there who are devoid of Krishna consciousness, they're just like chunks of wood. They're just like tree trunks. There's no use to the life. They're just, hardly they're doing nothing. But just like, like some sages, they have the power to ignite fire. Fire is present in wood in a subtle form. And those sages who know the secret, just by chanting mantras, they can invoke the fire through that wood, just by chanting mantras. So similarly, the Shastra explained that fire or Krishna consciousness, the fire of Krishna consciousness, is already there, present in the heart of all jivas. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, Sajja Kabinai, Shravanadi Sudachite, Karayodai. So just like fire is dormant within the wood, and the wood is just inert, it's not doing anything, it's just static, it's like useless, but fire is present in there. So same way, Krishna consciousness is present within these jivas who are not devotees. And although at the present they're like dead bodies, when the spiritual master comes, the spiritual master, by giving the holy name to the disciple, the spiritual master ignites the fire of Krishna consciousness in the wood-like living entities. So like this, Prabhupada explains in first canto, and Prabhupada says this is the process of initiation. So this is how one comes in contact with Krishna, one gets the gift of Krishna consciousness. On our own endeavor, we can't do, only by the mercy of Guru. And yeah, we see this example through whole Shastras, and no matter how degraded one may be, if one comes in contact with Krishna, one can get liberated. And also we can talk a little bit about Kangsha itself. Like last chapter, one class, Nrsimha Prabhu was explaining how Krishna is absolute and he can, like we sing, every day during Darshanati, Angani Yasya Sakalendri Vittimanti, that Krishna, he can do anything through any one of his parts of his body. So he can, hear through his eyes, he can see through his ears, he can smell through his mouth, anything he can do through any part of his body. His hand can act just like, I remember one demon Krishna killed by, does anyone remember which, not demon, like when Krishna came to Mathura, there was, sorry? Yeah, the washerman. So there was one washerman, Krishna was entering Mathura with his cowherd boyfriends, and there was one washerman with clothes of King Kamsa. And Krishna was asking, for his washerman to please, these are nice clothes, let us have these. And this washerman was like, no, who do you think you are? These are the clothes of the king. How can you take these, you impudent, children, go away. So like this washerman, he was like very rude. And as mentioned, Krishna, he chopped off his head just with his hand. So one may think, how can someone chop off someone's head with the hand? It's not sharp, nothing. How can you do it? And just like Balaram, he killed Ramahashana. He just picked up some kusa grass and he just tapped Ramahashana, and that's it, he died. So not only can Krishna do anything through anyone's, like the sensory things, he can do through any parts of his body, but also he can make his hand act like a sword. He can put so much potency into a grass that it acts like a, like a sword or a dagger. So in the same way, we see how through Krishna, just by Krishna glancing at different things, he can do different things. So that we were hearing in the previous chapter, Nrsimha Prabhu was explaining, that the same glance of Krishna that invokes so much joy and bliss, for the devotees. If Krishna just glances at a devotee, then, the devotee goes into ecstasy, starts experiencing ecstatic symptoms, he gets purified. And that same glance, when Krishna gives, bestows on the battle of Kurukshetra, he reduces the lifespan of all the soldiers. So that's given in Bhagavatam, that in battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna and Krishna, they're on the battle. Although it seems, Arjuna is fighting and killing all the soldiers, actually Krishna, he was doing all the hard work. Krishna was just glancing at all the soldiers, and just by glancing at all the opposing soldiers, Krishna was reducing their lifespan. And then Arjuna just did the easy work. Just had to shoot the arrows, and that's it, they're finished. After the battle, when Arjuna got off the chariot, there's that pastime. When Arjuna and Krishna, they get off the chariot, the whole chariot Arjuna just immediately bursts into flames. And then, and then Krishna says, that's how many different, Shastras were thrown at Arjuna's chariot, and Krishna was absorbing, or Krishna was protecting Arjuna against. So this is all we hear from Bhagavatam. So now we're hearing how Krishna is doing amazing things with his conch shell. So the same conch shell that he's blowing, it's in the next verse, tomorrow's verse, is mentioned that the citizens of Dwarka, having heard that sound which threatens fear personified in the material world, began to run towards him fast, just to have a long-desired audience with the Lord, who is the protector of all devotees. So it's mentioned in Bhagavatam that the sound of Krishna's conch shell is feared by fear personified. So for those who are enemies of the Lord, who are demons, just like first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna, he blew his conch shell, it shattered the hearts of all the Kauravas. So on one hand, for the demonic people, it shatters their heart, it puts them into great anxiety. But for the devotees, the residents of Dwarka, when they finally hear, for so long, for months, Krishna has been away from Dwarka. So finally, when they hear this conch shell, immediately, it's like they came back to life. It's like they were like dead and they just came back to life. It's like they just got consciousness. And immediately they all start running. Everyone knows the sound of Krishna conch shell. And all the residents of Dwarka, we'll see in the next couple of verses, they all start running to Krishna in great joy. And just by hearing, like in Nectar of Devotion is mentioned, that the sound of Krishna's conch shell is one of the impetuses that produces ecstatic symptoms in the devotee. So just like, the sound of Krishna's flute, the sight of Krishna's transcendental form, sometimes devotees see the Lord or they hear Krishna's flute and they go into ecstasy. So same way, when certain devotees, when they hear the sound of Krishna's conch shell, they also start exhibiting transcendental symptoms, ecstatic symptoms. So you see how Krishna, he does so many different things through just one particular object like his conch shell or through his flute. So even his flute, there's one whole chapter in Krishna book dedicated to the sound of Krishna's flute and the impact it has on different living entities. When Krishna blows his flute, all the animate objects, they become inanimate. So all the living entities who are moving, going here and there, they all just become stationary. And all the inanimate objects, they start moving. The trees, they start shivering in ecstasy, and the trees start oozing sap. And all the animate objects, like the birds, the cows, the calves, they just freeze. And their ears go up, and they just hear. The Yamuna, which is flowing, she's rushing through. The Yamuna also freezes. And everyone's just intently hearing Krishna's glories. So we can also meditate. That's a nice meditation when we chant. So just like all the residents of Vrindavan, they're just like frozen and they're just intently hearing the sound of Krishna's flute, which Prabhupada mentions is non-different from the holy name. So in the same way, when we're chanting, we should try and, freeze our mind or just focus only on the holy name and think of nothing else. Just like the residents of Vrindavan, they just stopped all activities. It's mentioned some of the calves, they were drinking the milk from the cows. So their mouth was, attached to the udder of the cows and they were drinking milk. But then they heard Krishna's flute and they just stopped. They just froze, while they're drinking the milk. So in the same way, whenever we chant, we should just try and focus only on the holy name and try and think of nothing else. Everything else can wait. Like Radhashyam Prabhu says, whenever different thoughts come to our mind when we chant, like that's the main, distraction that we always start planning what we'll do during the day. Okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. And we start planning in our mind when we do japa. So Radhashyam Prabhu says, whenever these planning thoughts come, we should just tell ourselves, not now, later. Later we'll plan, not now, later. So like that, you just forward it. Tell your mind, later I'll do it. Don't worry, we'll come to it later. Not now, let's just chant. So we can see the potency of sound in comparison to Krishna. So just like the sound coming from Krishna's conch shell is transcendental, similarly the sound coming from Krishna's flute is transcendental, and they can have the same effect as Krishna. And also when Lord Nrsimhadev came, he first appeared through sound. So that's mentioned in the 7th canto, that when Hiranyakashipu, with his club, he struck the pillar, Lord Nrsimhadev didn't immediately appear, in his transcendental form, but he first appeared through sound. There was a big, screeching, tumultuous sound, which cracked the entire universe, and everyone thought the whole universe is like, going to collapse. Everyone thought it's like the time of annihilation. So that's the sound that Hiranyakashipu first heard, and he was just like completely bewildered. So that's how Lord Nrsimhadev first appeared. So in the next verses, Prabhupada would say that this is the power of any sound in connection with Krishna. So the sound that comes from Krishna's transcendental conch shell, the sound that comes from Krishna's flute, and the sound of Krishna's holy name, they're all non-different, and they all have the same effect. So just like the sound of Krishna's conch shell and flute, it dissipates all fear in the hearts of the devotees. So similarly, Prabhupada says, whenever we're in any fearful situation, we should just chant the holy name. And simply by chanting, all fear will dissipate. All anxieties, everything will go away. Not even that, Prabhupada says, not only done like a mental, spiritual, okay, on a spiritual level we understand, if we chant Hare Krishna, our heart will get purified, we'll become more saintly, we'll come more closer to Krishna, we'll develop more bhakti. On a mental level we hear, okay, if we chant Hare Krishna, we'll be free from fear, anxiety, all these things. But also on a physical level, Prabhupada says, if you have any physical ailment, if you're sick, or if you have some bodily difficulty, if you chant Hare Krishna, all your disease and your sickness, mental, like bodily disturbance will also go away. So this Prabhupada mentions in 3rd canto, it's given that Kardama Muni, he's doing great austerities Lord Brahma has instructed him that you need to get married and progenate the universe. So Kadama Muni, he starts doing austerities, tapasya, to get a good wife from Vishnu. So Vishnu, he's so pleased with his tapasya. Vishnu, he comes riding on Garuda. And it's mentioned that when Vishnu is coming with Garuda, the flapping of Garuda's wings, that's non-different from the hymns of the Samaveda. And just by the sound, the transcendental sound vibration from Krishna's entrance into Kadama Muni's residence, it's mentioned that after so much austerities, Kadama Muni's body was kind of like, not emaciated, but it was like very worn out and tired, After so much austerities, naturally the body gets very tired. And it looked like he was like a covered gem. So just like a gem, when it's covered in the ground, it looks very muddy and dirty, but the actual beauty of the gem is hidden inside the ground. So simply Kadama Muni is described like after so much austerity, his body was very tired and worn out. But simply by hearing the transcendental sound vibration from Krishna's entrance with Garuda, his body just changed. And he got a new, like a physically strong, perfect body with new energy. So in that purport, Prabhupada says that by transcendental sound vibration, that one's physical, body can also change. One can also physically advance. And Prabhupada says we can experience the same effect through the holy name. So this we see through Bhagavatam. And last part of today's purport, Prabhupada is saying here, by ardent love and devotional service to the Lord, or in other words, by spiritual contact with the Lord, everything becomes spiritually reddened like the conch shell in the grip of the Lord. And the Paramahamsa, or the supremely intelligent person, plays the part of the ducking swan in the water of spiritual bliss, eternally decorated by the lotus flower of the Lord's feet. So this is a very nice description given by, here in this verse and by Prabhupada, of a white swan playing in transcendental waters, and there's a lotus flower, and that lotus flower is compared to Krishna's feet. And the Paramahamsas, they're like these swans who are eternally, immersed in that lotus flower in the lake. So this is our destiny. This is what we should be aspiring for, to be like these Paramahamsas. So first canto, like same in this canto, we hear, I think in the previous volume, we are reading how there's two types of living entities. There's the crows and the Paramahamsas. So the crows, their food or their refuge is garbage. So you see crows, they always go around garbage dumps, and that's their food. But you'll never see a white swan going to a garbage bin or garbage pile and taking the garbage there. The white swan, its taste is different. It has a higher taste. The white swan will always be in nice lakes and rivers where there's beautiful lotus flowers, and the swan will take shelter of the lotus flowers instead of the garbage. So, like one example my Guru Maharaj is giving, like he was once in India, and he was in like some multi-floor apartment block, and there was like one person next to him, and this person had some phlegm in his throat. So it just coughed up the phlegm, and then it spit out the phlegm from out the balcony of this apartment. And then my Guru Maharaj saw, as he spread out the phlegm from his throat into the air, he just suddenly saw a crow coming out of nowhere. And in midair, the crow just caught that phlegm and just swallowed it, and he went away. So my Guru Maharaj says this story to help us understand this is the taste of crows. So this is the type of things what crows like to eat. So Bhagavatam compares these crows to materialistic persons. The materialistic persons, they take pleasure in, mundane things. But we should be like those ones. We should take shelter or relish the taste of Krishna's glories, Krishna's activities, Krishna's pastimes. When I read this dictionary, I was reminded of one verse from CC. I'll just read this verse out. This is in Adi Leela, second chapter, the second verse. Second chapter, Adi Leela. So in CC, if you're looking for nice prayers to offer to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in a lot of the chapters of CC, at the start of every chapter of CC, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he offers different prayers to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So at the start of this chapter in Adi Leela, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says this one very beautiful verse. O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges water of your transcendental activities flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name. which are the pleasurable birds of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are compared to swans, ducks, and bees. The river's flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens the ears. So we don't have time to go through purport, but basically Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he's praying to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that please bless me, that the nectarian Ganges water of your transcendental activities always, nourish and purify my desert-like tongue. So the tongue is compared to like a desert. The tongue is always hankering for water. And Prabhupada writes in his purport that the so-called pleasure one gets from talking about mundane things, talking about sports or news, or this celebrity did that, this thing did that, that's just like a drop of water falling on the desert-like tongue. So that can't give one satisfaction. The only way one can get satisfied if the Ganges water of Krishna's transcendental activities flow on one's tongue. And Prabhupada, in this verse it said that in this nectarian Ganges water of Krishna's activities, there are many lotus flowers, and these lotus flowers are compared to the flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name. And the devotees, they're like swans and bumblebees. They take shelter in the lotus flowers in this transcendental river. They dive deep into the lotus flower of chanting. They dive deep into the lotus flower of hearing about Krishna. They dive deep into the lotus flower of dancing in kirtan. Yes, so we'll stop here. Nanchara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanande.